Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Nepal, where the two seas meet. So, in a number of other videos, I've discussed how this Quranic conceptualization of the place where the two seas meet is a very interesting tool to think with. And we've discussed what the two seas meet and the place where the two seas meet in a number of different contexts in Turkey, in Egypt, etc. So now here we are with the Himalayan peaks in the background, massive 26,000 foot tall mountains. We've got Phewa Lake, this beautiful green lake in the foreground, along with Surah, which I believe is less than 5,000 foot tall. And then these massive peaks in the background that are in a window with some blue sky, and hopefully it'll clear up some more as we talk. But let's think about, how is Nepal a place where two seas meet? Well, basically you've got, what many people have called the Indian subcontinent crashing into the continent of Eurasia, and over a vast expanse of time. But this very area where we are used to be ocean floor, and then through continental uplift was pushed up to these heights, and now these Himalayan mountains are still growing as the Indian subcontinent is pushing further into Eurasia. Now, it's a different discussion whether this whole conceptualization of a subcontinent is problematic to a certain extent. Whether we could consider it a continent or a subcontinent, because it's clearly, the Indian subcontinent, which includes Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, South Asia. This area is larger than Antarctica. It's larger than Australia, as far as I'm aware. So it's a quite large area, and it has tremendous biodiversity, linguistic, cultural, and ethnic diversity. South Asia is a very amazing place, and it's basically crashing into Eurasia and pushing up the Himalayas, which are growing as we speak. And then on the other side of the Himalayas is the vast Tibetan Plateau, which some people call the third pole. It is, much of it is over 14,000 foot tall. It's permafrost throughout the year. It's very difficult to live and survive and make a living in many of the areas of the Tibetan Plateau. And yet it's a very important area for rivers and minerals and of course human spirituality. Now, of course, the whole Himalayan range, which stretches from up by Tajikistan and Afghanistan and across Pakistan, India, the border of India and China, in Chinese CCP occupied Tibet, depending on your political perspective. And then the Himalayas stretch across, so it's going to go through, Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh area, Himachal Pradesh. It's going to go down across Uttarakhand, and then straight across Nepal, out to Sikkim, Bhutan, Arunachal Pradesh, and then into Myanmar, where I believe the final 20,000 foot peak is in the northern tip of Burma, of Myanmar. And then there are foothills that extend down in various directions. But here we are in Nepal, which has most of the tallest mountains in the world. Maybe 10 out of the top 14 tallest mountains. Maybe, please put in the comments if you know the specific number of tallest peaks that are located here. But here in Nepal, we've got obviously Sagarmatha, which is the head of the ocean, which most of us know as Mount Everest, which is about 29,000 foot tall. Lhotse, we've got, obviously Annapurna 1 is number 10, Dholatgiri is number 7. Now Everest, Sagarmatha, is on the border of China and Nepal. And then the second tallest mountain in the world is also on the border between Nepal and India, right at by Darjeeling in West Bengal, and Sikkim, and over in the Elam, in the tea growing region of Elam here in Nepal, as well as the tea growing region of Darjeeling and Sikkim. So Nepal, I'm arguing that it is a place where the two seas meet, much like the Sinai, much like the Bosphorus and Dardanelles region of Turkey. Um, so, you know, people often read the Quran and where the place where the two seas meet, and they take it very literally in a very historical manner. I'm not excluding that, but I'm saying that we can expand this conceptualization to many different areas of life. It's a place of confluence where different seas of information come together, and the place where the sage sits is the place of where wisdom and compassion are located, where we can come into direct insight. So we could think about it in a physiological manner, like the place where the two seas meet would maybe be the nose bone, where oxygen, where we're breathing in the outer into the inner, and the inner to the outer. Breathing in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide, which then we have like a symbiotic relationship with the plant world. So we help them breathe, they help us breathe. So that's on a physiological level. But here, it's like the place where the sage sits would actually literally be the Himalayas, and it's quite interesting that it's one of the most important places for human spirituality. And since for many, many millennia, um, spiritual seekers, truth seekers, have been coming to the Himalayas, to the caves, to the peaks, to the valleys, to the river areas, to sit and contemplate, to meditate, to pray, to fast, to perform ascetic practices in order to purify their bodies, purify their minds, be brought into harmony with nature. So it's a very sacred place to many shamanic traditions, to many Buddhist traditions, to the Jains, the Ajivkas in ancient times, and many of the shamanic schools, the Vedic schools, and those who followed the Vedantic traditions connected to the Upanishads. It's sacred to many of the different Buddhist schools, including Theravadins and Mahayana, who have spent much time meditating in these areas. You've obviously got the sadhus who have the long dreadlocks and have a cannabis culture and contemplate nature that tend to be within the Shaivite tradition. And then there are other sannyasins or kind of monastic hermit types within the Vaishnavite Vishnu traditions that spend a lot of time in the Himalayas, in the Himalayan region, historically. Also within the Islamic tradition, many Sufis have spent considerable amount of time contemplating, meditating, and praying in the Himalayan region, particularly in Kashmir, Gilgit, Baltistan, up toward Hunza. But here in Nepal, this is traditionally an area that's considered to be within the shamanic, the Hindu, and the Buddhist expressions. Most of the Buddhists who have spent time meditating in these areas, in the foothills of the Himalayas, as well as at the roots of the mountains, making kora, circumambulating around sacred mountains. And the Buddhists and the Hindus tend to go clockwise, as opposed to the Muslim tradition and the Bon tradition of Tibet, which go counterclockwise. But basically, you see, out of the Mahayana schools, you've typically had, earlier on, you would have seen kind of what's the right word for this? The Bactrian Buddhist tradition, the Kashmiri tradition. Some of them would have wandered into these regions and meditated and contemplated. We have, like, the famous Guru Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, who is very important within Tibetan Buddhism, the Nyingma school. Many people have meditated from the Kagyupa school. These are Tibetan schools, Sakyapa and Gelugpa. And like even in front of me, there's their prayer flags from the Tibetan tradition. Um, and so the Tibetans have typically been spending a lot of time making pilgrimages in and through these Himalayan peak regions, spending time in the foothills and on the plateau at sacred lakes. Um, so it's a very sacred place to Tibetans, to Nepalis, to Indians, to many South Asians and Central Asian peoples who have constantly made pilgrimage to these areas to go very deep into contemplation, into meditation. Now within so and you have the like in the West, you've got the stereotypical story that kind of like arises during the beat era and the hippie era, during the hippie trail era, where it's like, you've got the seeker, walking to the top of the mountain. Now this goes back much further than the hippie times. I mean, we can see examples within the Sufi tradition of people climbing to the top of the mountain to meet with the sheikh, to meet with the pir, to meet with the guru, to meet with the Kalyana Mita, the good friend who will guide them to the to ultimate truth, who will guide them to the goal, our source and our return from various perspectives. So these are areas where sages quite literally sit, and it's where the two C's. What are the two C's? In this case, in this argument, I'm arguing that we have the sea of soil and from South Asia meeting the sea of soil from Eurasia, Inner Asia, Tibet. So you've got two seas of soil meeting, and the stone where the sage sits is the Himalayas, the growing rocky outcrops. So it's like, so we've also got different two seas or different seas of spirituality meeting, where you've got like, say, the various Hindu traditions like the Vaishnavite, the Shaivite, the Shakti traditions, and then the more non-orthodox expressions that are labeled under the Hindu umbrella. They're meeting with shamanic tradition from Eurasia that came down from up in the Turco-Mongol areas and then extended down into the Tibetan plateau, and then also with the Indo-Europeans, and that came in through Kashmir, Ladakh into the Tibetan plateau. So these seas of spirituality are meeting, and the various Buddhist schools left India up through the Silk Road, going up into what's now northern Pakistan, around Takshila in the Punjab, and in Kashmir, and in Bactria, what Muslims call Khorasan, the land of the rising sun, and then extending up through the Turkic and Persian Silk Road areas into China proper, and then extending into Korea, and then over to another land of the rising sun, Japan. So we've got various schools of Buddhism that disperse out of India and South Asia and then return across the Himalayas. So you've got two seas of spirituality, two seas of soil. Also, it's interesting that quite literally, these areas where the Himalayas are growing used to be undersea, and we see many sea fossils are found in this region. I believe conch shells fossilized. There's I forget what there's a type of sea creature that's fossilized that's found in the Kali Gandaki Gorge, one of the biggest gorges in the world, from one of the most important tributaries of the Ganges River, of the Ganga, has these really cool fossils that are considered sacred within the Vaishnavite, the Vishnu tradition. So those are sea creatures. So quite literally, this was an area of saline sea meeting a sea of soil and sands. So you've got various ways of conceptualizing this, and I'm leaving many things out, and I'm sure that if I studied this more, that I would be able to elucidate on this and express it in a better manner, inshallah. But for now, I just wanted to point out that we've got, two seas of soil, two seas of spirituality, meeting here at the Himalayas, at the stone where the sage sits. So I am not attempting to find the historically accurate meeting place where the two seas meet from Surah al-Kahf, from Surah 18 within the Quran, within the glorious Quran, but rather to say that within Quran there are many thinking tools that we are not taking advantage of as Muslimin, and this is all geared toward us having a more expansive way of viewing the world, of having ways of sharpening our intellects, of our reason and our logic, as well as expanding our hearts, and therefore finding connecting points to one another, because we are to know one another based on our various colors and backgrounds and languages and cultures and religions. We are to know one another. The Quran is full of the binaries to think in, to provide thinking tools. In the place where two seas meet, this is about confluence. And also this area of South Asia and areas where the Indo-Europeans were and beyond, the confluences are very sacred, where two rivers meet, where two or more rivers meet together. They're places of high energy, places of healing, places of insight arising, places of transformation. And so the river confluence is a way of thinking, as well as the place where the two seas meet, because that is a confluential way of thinking. And we are to be, as Muslimin, we are to be reconcilers, we are to be healers, we are to be peacemakers. We are not to be exclusivists, we are not to be supremacist. Those are satanic ways of viewing things, and just study the Iblis narrative within the Quran, and you will see this to be true. We are not to be among the Satanists, and we are not to follow the sunan of the shayateen. Rather, we are to follow the ways of the prophets, going back to the prophet Adam, peace be upon all of them. So it looks like the clouds are starting to obscure the mountains once again, but hopefully it'll open back up. But let's think about how this place where two continents are meeting, where Eurasia and the Indian subcontinent are coming together, which maybe we could actually, the Buddhists, they call South Asia Rose Apple Island, which is quite interesting, because if you look at a map of South Asia, of India, and then you look at a rose apple, which is a very delicious fruit, and you turn the rose apple upside down, they actually match up. They're a close approximation. So it's actually a very good description of South Asia, of India, of the rose apple. And so it's almost like somebody had seen it from above and given it that description, which is quite accurate and quite interesting. So there's so many fascinating things about this Himalayan region. And just finally, I wanted to add in, I mentioned the confluences, and notice we've got Lake Phewa down here, Phewa Ta, and then that's going to empty into the Seti River, and then the Seti River is going to then meet some other rivers along the way, and I believe it's going to become the Narayan River down by Chitwan National Park, and then enter into India, and finally enter into the Ganges. So you have a number of confluences. So I mentioned the two seas meet, the seas of soil, the seas of spirituality, but we also have many river confluences, which are also places where the sages sit, sages of many different traditions. And I would encourage us to spend as much time contemplating in nature. It is very powerful to sit in mountain areas, especially mountains that are growing, and such as volcanoes, such as the Himalayas. These are places of intense kinetic energy being released out into the world, and we can absorb these, and they can lead to awakenings within us because of kun, because we are kun created clay, kun created water, and we have ruh. So we have ways of connecting to all things, and we are the place where the two seas meet, between inner and outer, between spirit and matter, etc. There are many ways of conceptualizing. So when we think about where the two seas meet, let's expand our way of viewing and think of, and consider this as a thinking tool that has been placed for us to consider and break free from unhealthy traditional ways of viewing things and get back to the original deep human tradition, which is the prophetic path. So until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.